Well, I think the reason why you cannot have the same kind of Cold War as you had within the United States and Soviet Union is because the United States is today the largest market for Chinese products in terms of exports. At the same time, just as China relies upon United States to buy its products, the United States relies on China to buy its treasury bills to fund its deficits. Now that's a kind of interdependence that they have locked themselves into. And I can tell you, by the way, one of the points I make in my book, I'm not sure whether I should have made it, was that, at the height of the financial crisis, Washington DC, as you know, was very worried. And that's why the most unilateral president in recent American history, George W. Bush, ironically convened the first G20 leaders meeting. That showed how worried he was. But he and both Barack Obama sent envoys to Beijing to seek private reassurances that China will continue buying U.S. Treasury bills. Because if China at that point at that time had said, we're not going to buy U.S. Treasury bills, then frankly the markets would have exploded, right? And so the Chinese gave the assurances. But unfortunately, one side result of that was that the Chinese then became overconfident. They thought, you see, now that the United States relies upon us, so we can do what we want. And that may explain why in the book I document several foreign policy mistakes that the Chinese made subsequently in the years, in 2010 and so on and so forth. That led to certain overconfidence. But now the Chinese also have realized that they made these mistakes, and I think the Chinese are also backtracking and being more careful. At the same time, as you know, there's been a major leadership transition in China, and I actually think that the leaders that China has selected for this new leadership may be among the best that China has had in a long time. And I think if you look carefully at the background and the mindset of people like Xi Jinping or Li Keqiang, you don't find in them any kind of great desire to get involved in a kind of head-on conflict with the United States. They will stand their ground on issues where they feel they're being pushed around by the United States, like I mentioned in the book, the aggressive naval patrolling 12 miles off China's shores, which I think is unwise for the US Navy to do at this stage, because 30 years, 20 years from now, you'll have aggressive Chinese patrolling off California if you continue this game. So you've got to might as well work out a new global ethic, a new global understanding of how powerful navies behave towards each other. So as present trends continue, I'm quite confident that there will not be a Cold War, but there will be a mixture of competition and collaboration. And by the way, if I'm not mistaken, that's also the conclusion of Henry Kissinger's book on China. If you read the book, he comes to the conclusion, yes, we will compete in some areas, but we can also work together.
No.
Is that, in America, there is a remarkable reluctance to conceive of a world where America is no longer number one, And I describe an episode in my book where in January 2011, which is I guess 13 months ago, I was a moderator like you of a panel in Davos where on my right there were two Republican senators, Coker and Chambliss, and on my left were Nita Lowry, the New York Congresswoman, and Michael Froman, the Deputy National Security Advisor. And the topic of the panel was the future of American power. So my first question was a very obvious one. I said, what do you see as the future of American power? So they say, oh, we'll be number one, we'll be number one, we'll be number one. I said, good. Then I said, I've seen some statistics, IMF statistics, which tell me that sometime maybe within the 5 to 10 years, China's economy might become bigger than America's. How do you think America will behave when it is the number 2 economy in the world? And I can tell you that their responses completely shocked me, because I discovered that no senior American figure can have words coming out of his or her mouth saying that America, if number 2 or when America is number 2. And the smartest guy by far was Senator Coker, who said, and I quote his response verbatim, he said something like, Mr. Chairman, I can do the maths too. I can see where you're taking us, but I'm not going there. So, I mean, he gave the best answer. He never wanted to have it said on record that if America is number two. And you know, the thing that's really frightening, and this is what worries me, and this is why, in a sense, I wrote this book, is that, you know, it's going to happen sooner than you expect, because in PPP terms, the United States share of the global GNP in 1980 was 25%, and China's share was 2.2%, less than 10% of America's in 1980. Come 2017, which is 3 to 4 years from now, the United States share is going to go down from 25% to 17.6%, and China's share is going up from 2.2% to 18.2%. Now, so in PPP terms, the American GNP will be number two in 3 to 4 years. And if no senior American figure can discuss publicly and say, when we become number two, if we become number two, how we behave, then you're creating a very dangerous situation. Because you know, the biggest danger in politics is to live with illusions like that.